Hell Is Us has recently got a number of gameplay overviews, showcasing many different things from its action combat to its environment exploration, with a focus on player discovery. So we're pretty excited over at GamesNight for the game, so let's go over everything we know about Hell Is Us. So Hell Is Us is developed by Rogue Factor and published by Nacon, is scheduled for release September 5th, 2025, and currently coming to Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series S and X. So what is Hell Is Us? It's a third-person action-adventure that combines hard-hitting combat with exploration, encouraging player discovery and interaction. It was originally announced all the way back in 2022 and went quiet for a little bit, but then resurfaced last year at the PlayStation State of Play. The creative director for the game, Jonathan, has previously worked on titles such as Deus Ex, Human Revolution, and is leading the development for Hell Is Us. In recent gameplay overviews, Jonathan touches on many elements that aims to set the game apart. You take on the role of Remy, a peacekeeper who has returned to the fictional country of Hadea. His home country, Hadea, is no longer the same, having been torn apart by war, and is now crawling with supernatural beings thanks to an event known as the Calamity. Now, the story of Hell Is Us aims to tell a mature one in a complex world blending reality with mysterious phenomena, exploring deep themes such as civil war, human emotions, and connections with family. Now, because of this mysterious phenomena, Hell Is Us almost has a horror flair to its art style, heightened even more with the mini-game's enemies, such as a creepy one called the Hollow Walker, faceless, almost Slenderman-like creatures that screech as they approach. During the gameplay reveals, Jonathan made a point of saying that nowadays, modern games can be too focused on player assistance, showing a player where to go, what to do, and how to complete a task without allowing for player investigation. One example of this is, despite the games being very good, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West pretty much explaining what you're doing at every given time from the character. That's one example of silver plattering. Hell Is Us aims to strip away that hand-holding nature and what they call player plattering. So they're going to be removing the map, the compass, and quest markers, instead having players focus on points in conversation and environmental landmarks, such as maybe artwork on a building, for player navigation and awareness. So for example, dialogue from a particular NPC indicates to follow the wind chimes, so they now have to look out for this when navigating a dark forest environment. Jonathan explains, we want the player to regain full control of their adventure by exploring, discovering, and deciding for themselves. There is also a number of puzzles in Hell Is Us. One shows an investigation of an underground temple, utilizing your drone to translate an ancient language. Remy will also have access to some form of a datapad, think an investigation wall but in a digital 90s inspired device. It'll contain clues, leads to what you've discovered and heard, but also it's up to the player on how to act on this information and decide what the next step is. Many environments we see are quite open in Hell Is Us, with many different points of interest that may provide more information on leads or side discoveries. One example is a large tree with many hanging corpses that has a number of items that can lead into other side discoveries. Hell Is Us will also have a number of dungeon-like areas that are focused on exploring the history of Hadea, allowing the player to discover more about the world, the lore, and a number of other discoveries. Now, looking at the combat for Hell Is Us, it has a hard-hitting action combat with various different tools at the player's disposal, like weapons such as swords, spears, axes. These weapons will have their own abilities, but think magic, but in a more scientific sense, rather than the traditional magic. Now, despite the camera angle, Jonathan also makes a point to say that Hell Is Us should not be considered a Souls-like when it comes to its combat and surrounding systems. Players will have to learn to master a range of different moves and adapt to enemy attacks. One other note is that Remy will also have Kapi, or Kapi, I'm not sure how that is, a drone companion capable of distracting enemies or setting up for special attacks. So this drone is not considered a sidekick in the traditional sense. It won't be talking non-stop, it'll be more focused on playing a role in combat. So Hell Is Us is aiming to balance these two core pillars of combat and exploration, with Jonathan saying that each should amount to 50% of the game's experience. Hell Is Us looks like a promising title, we're excited for it, and aims to bring back that old school player-driven discovery, combined with a more modern combat system, creating a pretty unique experience in the world of Hadea. So that is currently all we know at this stage on Hell Is Us. Are you going to be playing later in September? And be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out our other content over on our website.